So, 5 love languages. Let's talk about them. Hello, welcome to our Friday roundup video. I am Sheila Gregoire.
I'm Rebecca.
Yes, and normally in our roundup video we talk about like the podcast that we did this week or different blog posts we've done. We're not gonna do that this week. We're just gonna like choose something kind of random because we did a great podcast yesterday on soul ties, but I would be totally happy if I never talked about soul ties again in my life.
Yep, we've talked about them a lot.
We've talked about them, and it's just so, yeah. But I did post something on Facebook that went quite big this week of our stats from our newest marriage book, The Marriage You Want, where we measured people's love languages, and then we tried to see the correlations with other things in their marriage. And I talked about how one of the things we found was that for men who choose love languages as their men who choose physical touch as their primary love language, which is almost half of men, they are way more likely to be really dissatisfied with their sex life, to have lower marital satisfaction, like all and basically not as high emotional intimacy with their wife. So the point I was making is not that it's necessarily bad to say that you have physical touch love language. Like lots of people are cuddly. Being cuddly is fine. But I think a lot of guys especially are saying their love language is physical touch because they're kind of out of touch with their own emotions.
It's one of those situations where like this is a Venn diagram of people who overlap, right? So there's a lot of people who are like, but I really like physical touch and I'm not super dissatisfied.
Yeah.
That's great. But the people who are dissatisfied with their sex life because of emotional immaturity issues are far more likely to say that. It doesn't mean that this group is the same as this group, but it means they would choose the same option.
Yes, and that's what's going on. So anyway, so we were talking about this on Facebook, and we had someone leave an amazing comment, which is our comment of the week, and I want to read it to you, from a woman named Sarah. I won't mention her last name because I don't know if she wants us to.
Yes.
But she said this: I'm not sure if this is true in every culture. I actually think it's not. But men especially are touch-starved in Western cultures. This is to add another factor into why men may both say they prefer physical touch and tend to equate it with sex because they have a greater felt need for all of it. Women are conversely often touched out by all the attention caring for children, elderly parents, etc., who might demand that of them when there is an imbalance of the caring tasks in their lives. If men were more involved in these touch-saturated activities and the emotional connections that come with them, perhaps they would trend differently and be healthier.
That's an interesting point.
Good thought. Good thought.
Yeah, because there is this level where there was, oh gosh, I don't even remember what it was, but I remember looking at statistics at one point, and if someone ever saw this and you find the study, bring it to me. But in essence, just looking at how many times men versus women touch people in a day, and like women touch a lot more. Like they hug their friends more, they snuggle their friends more, they're more likely to hold, like a child is more likely to hold a woman's hand, you're more likely, like that's the thing, even if you're not like the primary caregiver, even in just like a work environment, women are more likely to have physical contact with friends than men are. And I think that's something where it's not that men need less physical contact than women, we all just need to be touched in a non-sexual way. Yeah. You know? And so, getting men more involved in some of those touch activities, especially with kids, have them snuggle and read books at night, have them do some of those touch things can also be a good idea. But when we look at love languages in general, because we found some interesting things about acts of service too. We talked about this on another Friday roundup video. I don't even remember. But how women who choose acts of service as their primary love language are far more likely to be dealing with uneven distribution of mental load and housework in the home. So like, is it actually a love language, or is it that I am being taken advantage of and I'm drowning? Yeah, or is it that I am just exhausted? Yeah. And the thing that would make me less exhausted, not actually more loved in a relational sense. Yeah. But like there's just this massive thing in front of me that isn't getting fixed. Anyway. So
the fact that love languages is supposed to be this cure-all to all marriage problems, and we did see a lot of interesting things in some of the findings. And so I want to talk about a study that came out a year ago. I talked about this on the blog a year ago when the study came out, but I haven't talked about it in a while, where Amy Mize, I love Amy Mize. I want to meet her one day. I really need to just email her or something, because Amy, I don't know how you say your last name, Moyes? Mise. Muise. Anyway, I believe she's at U of T or York. She's at one or the other. I think she's
she's close to us.
And she's done a bunch of studies that we've ended up, like, we've quoted her.
Yeah,
other studies in a whole bunch of her books.
I know, and it seems like she's supervising all of these because she's not always the first author.
Yeah.
So it seems like what she does is she does research in this realm and like helps master students and her PhD students and other. Like,
so Amy, if you're listening to this, I would love to chat because she's doing a lot of work in sex frequency, libido, even in some religious circles. So just really interesting stuff. Anyway. They did a scientific analysis of the love languages. And what they basically found is that there is no scientific basis for any of it.
No, they found that, first of all, like, even if there were, like, core relational needs, no one can really agree on what they are.
Yeah.
And there's so much overlap for a lot of them that it's hard to differentiate. It's hard to see if they even are different. Yeah. Like, is words of affirmation and quality time that different? Like, are you able to really, like, to really differentiate between the two, because you're not going to have those words of affirmation if you're not spending time. Like, it's just, anyway.
Yeah, and then they found that, people might do one test and come out with one love language. They'll do another one, they'll come out with a different, like, it says it's not easily replicated. And,
like, if you take it different times in your life, it's different, like...
And one of the interesting ones too is one of Gary Chapman's central premises is that people tend to give love in the way that they like to receive it. And so if you're married to someone with a different love language, like if your love language is gifts, you might always be bestowing gifts on your spouse, but what they really want is words of affirmation. And so there's a mismatch there. So if you can understand what your spouse needs and give that to them, then things will be better. But that assumes that if you have two people with the same love language, their marriage should be better. And it's not true. It doesn't happen. So so they looked at all of these different things, and what they concluded too is that what we need instead of like one primary love language is just a diet of all of them.
Yeah, like there are just things that go into being a holistically healthy individual. And that includes being able to speak freely about what you appreciate about people and accept when people are speaking into your life. It means you're prioritizing time with people that you love. You're putting margins in your life so that you can like prioritize people. Like, like all this stuff is just about if you are a healthy person, you're going to be doing these things. You're not going to forget about their birthday, and you're gonna think, even if it's something very small, you're gonna do something for them to show them that you were thinking of them. Like, these are just things that you do if you are a healthy person.
Right.
And it's not like, hey, you need one of them and they need a different one more. It's like, no, it's just if you have a deficiency in something, you're going to feel
and that's
that
the other
need.
thing they said is like, the love language tends to be about what are you deficient in, not how do you actually feel love.
Because you feel love through all of them.
Yeah.
But if you have someone who's really good at writing you beautiful letters about how much you mean to them, but never does the dishes and doesn't help with the kids.
Did I ever tell you about the time that your dad wrote me a sonnet?
No. That's very sweet.
I laughed.
No, you're a bad person. No, sorry. No.
I was like 21 years old.
Oh, no.
I did.
Oh, no.
But like, it's so not in my...
In your area where you felt the need for that?
Poor
dad.
I know. I'm terrible.
Oh my gosh, I've saved every email Connor has ever sent me.
Well, you're just a better person than me.
Or maybe you just don't feel a need for that, so you didn't speak into my life enough as my mother, and so I had a deficiency there that you didn't have. Maybe that's what it was. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Now everyone's gonna want me to find it. I do.
No, you can't find it and read it because then that's not fair.
No.
Oh my gosh,
but
that's so funny.
I know I'm a terrible person.
No,
but I'm just saying he was trying to show me love.
Yes.
And
it just didn't. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but we all need people to notice. Like, I think that's what romance really is. Like, when people say, oh, you need to make an effort on Valentine's Day, right? Or you need to make an effort. It's just saying, hey, I noticed you, and I really, I want to show you that I care.
Can I tell you what they did for Mother's Day? Can we use that example?
Sure,
because here's the thing. People often think like, oh, but that's too much or it's too extreme or whatever. Like, I can never make up the expectations or whatever. Here's the thing. I told Connor, the kids are old enough, I want a real Mother's Day, right? Because like, we are low maintenance people. Let's be clear here. When I say we haven't done Mother's Day really so far, it's not because Connor dropped the ball. It's because I don't want the mental load of Father's Day. And so if you're fine with it, skip this until our kids can be the one who do it, right? Because we do big birthday stuff. So I was like, I don't need you to do 2 days a year because I only want to do 1 day a year for you.
Yeah.
And now we're at the point where we have enough space in our margins. And I was like, the kids are old enough. We need to start teaching them about things like holidays and taking initiative and ownership of these. So I was like, I want the kids to do a Mother's Day for me. So Connor did this whole thing with them where he took them out. They got to buy me presents. They got to, at the dollar store, right? Because we're on budget. And they planned out a whole relax day for mommy. And so we decided, I told them what I wanted. I told them I wanted them to help me in the garden, and then they were going to do a nice thing for mommy, right? So I walk inside, and Connor has helped Alexander get blankets and pillows laid on the floor, and I was like, it is time for your relaxing back rub. And so I lie down on the floor, and Alex just kind of like squeezes for a minute, and he's like, well, that's done now. And it was like 10 seconds, and he was so proud of himself. And then efficiency was key with my children with this experience. And he gets me onto the bed, and Vivian brings up my book, and Alexander brings up a snack, and then Alex brings up a coffee for me, and he was very careful. He didn't spill a single drop. And they sat me down. They're like, now you stay there and you read your book. And then they lit a candle that they got, and they left. And they were so proud of themselves. And it was the best thing ever, because you could see my kids were like, it's go time. Let's go. We planned this down to the second. And they really didn't get the vibe of like, this can take more than a combined 28 seconds. And Connor is killing himself in the other room. And I am trying so hard not to laugh. And it was absolutely perfect. Oh, and they painted me flower pots and stuff like that. It was adorable. But that's the thing. It cost a grand total of like probably $10.
Yeah.
And it was utterly and completely perfect because it was like the kids were so proud of themselves. They thought this whole thing out. And now Alex is asking when he gets to have a Mother's Day. And it's like, anyway, but it's like, that's the kind of thing where it's like, I just felt like people cared.
Yeah, you just want people to notice you.
Exactly.
And think about, how can I do something to show you that we love you?
Exactly.
Right? Which is why...
It was genuinely exactly what I wanted.
Which is why, people are like, don't just buy me flowers if I like chocolates more. Or don't just, like, know what I like.
Yeah, or don't just do something because you're just getting it off your checklist.
Right.
Like, actually think it through. Even if it's a 10-second background, like, well, that's done now.
Yeah.
I can't, like, that's...
Cute. By the way, Alex and Vivian are 5
and 3, to be clear.
To be
clear. It was my favorite thing ever. It was just the best.
Yeah, so anyway, I think that the key thing from this article is it wasn't saying the 5 love languages are harmful.
No.
Okay? Because we've made a huge deal about how the book Love and Respect is actively harmful.
Yeah.
Okay? This isn't on that level.
No.
And they do say, thinking about how you can show love to your spouse and just being intentional is actually a really good idea. We have this in our new book, The Marriage You Want. Chapter 6 is all about taking initiative. Just taking initiative to notice what your spouse is feeling, what they're thinking, how you can make their life better. Just go around life noticing, pay attention. That's what it means. And sometimes reading the love languages, if you've never read a marriage book before.
Or if you're someone who is just not really relationally, like, frankly, skillful, right? Like, there are people where relationship stuff just comes naturally, and there's others that because of your family of origin, because of, like, how busy you are with work, maybe, because of all these things, like, the ball is getting dropped in this area. And a book like this might be like, hey, you shouldn't be dropping the ball in this area. And that can be what you need to kick you in the pants and, like, be like, hey, wait, I'm going to actually focus on being a good spouse.
Yeah, and that's great. So we're not saying it's harmful. Now, I do think the book itself has some serious issues, especially how it treats sex. So I am not recommending people read the book. No. We're just saying, like, the concept itself is not harmful in the way Love and Respect is, but it also isn't really rooted in science, even though Gary Chapman makes a lot of claims that it is. Yeah. And I'm really grateful that these researchers are actually looking into this. And one of our big things and our concerns at the Bare Marriage team is I don't think that the academic and psychology world realizes that these marriage books that we've been looking into, they sell like the books that we looked at for Great Sex Rescue sold a combined total of, I think, 35 million copies.
That's like one for everyone in Canada.
This is a a lot of books, and people aren't measuring what they actually do. So we've got some neat articles coming out, hopefully in some academic journals over the next year, especially when looking at love and respect. And yeah, I'm just hoping that the academic world stands up and notices, because we've been making an awful lot of claims in evangelicalism about how we've got the secret sauce for marriage, like love and respect, or for women only, or 5 love languages, and it doesn't stand up to scrutiny, and we should do better. Yeah, we should do better. Aragorn would write sonnets.
Well, no, I think the thing is,
You know what? I try to get the Aragorn reference, and we're running late.
I've got this.
Okay.
Men are touch starved, because also, I do also want to say, like, I think this ties in with the male loneliness epidemic, right? Because like, look at when you're watching The Lord of the Rings, in that scene where Boromir is dying.
Yes.
And Aragorn is cradling him like a baby, and is
him.
like holds his hand and kisses his forehead, and all of that is just what you do with friends.
Yeah.
And that is, Aragorn understands that male friendship does not need to be a touch-starved friendship. And I'm just saying, be like Aragorn.
Be like
Kiss
Aragorn.
your friends.
And don't be like me when your husband gives you a sonnet.
A lovely, adorable.
I feel really bad.